My hero. I don't know. I don't know how to start these videos anymore. I saw a video just a second ago where there was like a YouTuber who they took all of his intros and just played them back to back, and I realized that I start all these videos the exact same way, where I'm like, hey guys, it's Pineapple. But regardless, of course, you know that we're here to talk about the new episode of My Hero Academia, which is Season 6, Episode 23, the episode released earlier today on Crunchyroll. And we've already kind of gotten our video where we discuss all the events that happen in the episode out of the way. So this video, I can really leave it more so for just talking about what I thought about the episode and how much I really appreciated everything that they did this week. If you've been keeping up on My Hero Academia lately, you know that Deku left UA, and now we've been seeing him go on this little vigilante arc where he's going through some things and he's dealing with a lot all on his own. And finally, in this episode and the last episode, we've seen the rest of Class 1A catching up with him and helping him to take some of that burden off of his shoulders. Now, one of the reasons that Deku doesn't want to go back to UA is because of the danger that it presents to all of his friends, considering the fact that Shigaraki has a search quirk and he can just find Deku anywhere that he is using that ability, which puts everyone around him in danger. But also there's just the fact that now UA has been turned into a shelter, so there's all sorts of people from all over Japan being held there, including Deku's mom and everyone else's parents. And by making himself available, right, by using himself as bait and by hunting All For One down and making himself more or less unignorable, he actually puts a massive target on him that draws away any attention that All For One could use on UA, right? So it's kind of like Deku is dragging All For One and Shigaraki's attention away so they don't do anything to the school even though he's gone. Because if Deku just went into hiding or something like that and he was just hiding away from All For One, that's just one thing. We probably would have seen All For One or Shigaraki attacking the school. But since he's being such a thorn in All For One's side, looking for him and cleaning the streets of Japan and taking down all of the jailbreakers, he's become someone that literally just cannot be ignored. And in this episode, if it wasn't for Deku's friends, Deku actually probably would have lost the battle against Dictator. But we saw Bakugo taking him out, and that led perfectly to the events of Deku versus Class 1A. And there's a couple things that I really want to say about this battle. Now, I know some people off the bat are going to complain that, you know, Deku should have been able to just wash all of Class 1A, but there are two factors here. One, of course, Deku is very tired from the arc that he's just gone through. A lot of stuff has happened to him. He hasn't had a lot of rest, a lot of food or anything, so he is kind of just running on empty. And at the same time, the stakes here are more like trying to give your cat a bath, right? Like, Deku isn't actually trying to hurt any of the Class 1A members, and we see actually at multiple points in the episode, like when Deku oh so gently puts down Mineta with Black Whip, that he actually is going through a lot of care to not do any damage to them, like running into them with his high speed or like using too much air force or anything like that. He definitely has the training wheels on. And throughout the episode, I really liked how they hammered down on at least a single moment that every student has had with Deku, and I do think that the vocal performances carried a lot of what happened in this episode. And of course, when you have great vocal performances, great animation, and great music all combined, that just really makes for a special episode of TV. Some of the standout characters in this episode, for me at least, were Shoto Todoroki. I felt like his voice actor did a really good job, and we were told beforehand that he kind of led the charge on this episode in the voice acting booth. But geez, in the episode, it was just really nice to hear how emotional Shoto got and how driven he sounded when trying to get Deku to understand his plan, especially considering that Shoto was the person who had an actual plan to present to Deku compared to everyone else who was just like, hey, we'll be with you, by your side, friend stuff. Shoto was actually like, look at this reasonably, Midoriya. All For One could maybe attack the school or do something while we're all here dealing with you. The most logical conclusion would be to just come with us and let's figure this all out together. So I really like how Shoto came at things from a very like analytical, like smart perspective, especially because he knows Deku and he knows that that's sort of how Deku's brain works, and he was trying to appeal to that side of him. And that energy from Shoto just carried on to other characters, and I was really surprised to get like an amazing vocal performance from Froppy this week, right? Like, that was just incredible. The way that she spoke to Deku about not letting him go and how he's precious to her and the rest of the class, like, it just made me really start to take Froppy way more serious in a way that I didn't before, right? Like, I did take her seriously, but just seeing seeing the way that everyone has learned from Deku and how they cherish him now because of it was just really great, and I think it led to some spectacular moments in this episode, and I don't want to go every single one of them, but those were some of the ones that stood out to me the most. Now, of course, one of the best things that they did this episode was bring back the amazing, fantastic, not used enough Yusei Run song that a lot of people remember from earlier seasons of My Hero Academia. It was very, very viral a bunch of times, and it was used in a couple challenges, and I feel like they don't use it as often to make us miss it, so that when they do use it, it just has a lot more impact, and I definitely felt that extra bit of impact in this episode, right? As soon as you hear Yusei Run starting to play, and then you see the beat drop, it is just like, okay, all right, I know you guys are about to go crazy with this moment, and go crazy they did, because before the episode came out, we heard that Yutaka Nakamura was on the episode, and that kind of keys us in that this is where they're bringing in the big guns, right? This is where they're going to be bringing in some of the more experienced animators on the staff, or at least some of the more talented ones, and I definitely think that they showed out on every level for the visuals of this episode. I really like the actual character designs used for the students in this episode. They all looked, I mean, really close to Horikoshi's art, or something that really mimics it in a good way, and as great as the animation was sprinkled throughout the episode, I feel like the main moments of Bakugo and Ida trying to capture Deku in that final kind of jaunt through the sky was really handled the best and handled with care. I wish we'd got a better view of Bakugo shooting Ida from his hands using the explosions, with them giving us like a long shot instead and us not necessarily seeing that. But all in all, everything up until the first commercial break was 10 out of 10 perfection for me. But halfway through the episode, I knew that the most important part of the episode was still left to be adapted, so I couldn't quite yet say this was my favorite episode of the season without seeing how they would handle Bakugo's apology. And they did handle Bakugo's apology very, very well, I'll say. I like how the conversation flashed between the different ages of Deku and Bakugo's friendship, and that's something that was present in the manga, as Horikoshi kind of gave that to the animators, right? Like, all right, I'm gonna do this here and draw it this way, because I know you guys are gonna be able to go crazy with that when the music is swelling and everything in the anime. So I was a big fan of how the Bakugo and Deku apology scene was handled. I feel like the music there was really awesome. The backgrounds, the story just being told through even just the visuals, and seeing Deku literally falling over and stumbling and starting to fall down under the weight of his own words when he told the class that they couldn't keep up. And I like how this episode was brought to a close with us seeing Ochako taking the lead into the next episode, where we're going to be seeing Ochako truly saving Deku by fighting for Deku and making sure that there's still a place for him at UA. We've seen at the end of the episode that the massive crowd sitting outside of UA does not want Deku back because the secret of One For All is out, and they see it as a massive danger to have him there. Pretty much the same reason that Deku left. And at the end of the episode, we could still see Deku kind of like seeming like he was trying to sneak away or kind of step backwards, and Ochako grabbing his hand and saying, no, 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 no. I'm not letting you go. Stay right here and let me handle this. So next week, I'm honestly expecting probably one of the most emotional episodes in the entire series of My Hero Academia, as Ochako handles this group with expert care. And with just a level of emotion that this episode was able to get out of me, I definitely think we're about to go 10 out of 10 2 episodes in a row.